Hi everyone, this is In Critique, and I love to criticize things. It's one of my hobbies. But do you know what else I like to do in my spare time? I like to watch TV shows.
Wow.
Which is one of the reasons I still rewatch Pretty Little Liars to this day. Is it a concerning thing when you're 27 and you have to pay the bills and you have to go to work and you have to feed your cats? Possibly. But it also makes me well equipped to criticize this show. Now, I'm gonna give you a little bit of a backstory on my relationship with this show. I love it with all my heart, and at the same time, I hate what was done to it. I used to watch it when I was 14, and I really have great memories of watching it with my best friends. Notably, with one of them on the bench in the girls' bathroom on our free period with our aesthetically pleasing plastic mugs. But around the time when I was in uni, I already realized how many problems this show actually has. So let's talk about those problems. One of the main issues I see in PLL is that it kind of lost the essence of the books. I mean, it was very much a product of its time. It was released by ABC Family, and the episodes were coming out on the regular basis every week. It wasn't a time when streaming services were all that popular, and this apparently means that more artistic shots are not a thing as well. It's kind of hard to watch it now, knowing that there are so many other interesting shows that have such a different storytelling and more interesting visuals. And no matter how much I hate Euphoria, I think it's still a beautiful show. Even I Know What You Did Last Summer, the 2021 Amazon show that no one ever heard about, has some incredibly interesting shots. And the premise of the show is actually not that different to PLL. Hell, I recently watched Good Trouble and I was shocked how character-centric the show can be and how the storytelling doesn't have to rely on chronological order. Also, Cruel Summer proved that there are more interesting ways to tell a story about young girls. So now, when you rewatch PLL, it suddenly feels strangely claustrophobic and a little bit shallow. But it had so much potential. It had so much potential. Four girls losing their frenemy, who was also a leader of the group in mysterious circumstances, just to have her body being found a year later and getting messages from Anonymous being called A, who knows all their secrets and is willing to blackmail them to make them do unspeakable things. That is freaking brilliant. Sarah Shepard is somewhat of a genius for coming up with this enticing premise. But what I think was lost in the show was not only the visuals that could have been so much more impactful, but also its depth. Pretty Little Liars books were about 4 teenage girls going through traumas, experiencing continuous losses, making a lot of mistakes, living in a constant fear, experiencing psychological issues. So where was the depth of those themes in the show? Characters literally get over killing people in 3 days, according to the timeline, and those things have no impact on them.
I'm all better now.
But also there is a certain nuance to the teenage friendship patterns and relationship women have with each other. And they can get really toxic, especially if we talk about 16-year-old girls going through traumas and having a lot of insecurities. But these themes haven't been given any depth. And you know what? I hate the fact that even writers haven't taken this show seriously.
Last minute, switcheroo.
They had a really strong foundation to write something impactful for actual generations. And just because something is for teenage girls or is about them is not a reason to dismiss it. The struggle of being a teenage girl is a real experience, and I think it should be explored properly. Honestly, rewatching this show, I just found that what they were going through is dealt in a very shallow manner and is overtly literal. Moving on.
Take this moment, make it last forever.
It is way too long. You know, it would be one thing to write the show that long and actually take the time to develop characters, and therefore make the ending so much more impactful. When they actually find out who was the bad guy.
I'm the bad guy.
All along, and then they can finally move on with their lives. But that doesn't happen. We are just being introduced to new characters all the time. They bring nothing to the main story. They have little to no impact on liars' lives, and then they disappear. There are extensive romantic storylines. Like, Marlene, can you just get to the point, please? Can you just get to the point, please? It actually makes perfect sense why the story was so long and convoluted. They wanted to waste fans' lives and make them watch it for 7 years because it brings more dollars. And again, I wouldn't have problems with it if it was done well. But it wasn't. The show goes completely off the rails, starting from season 6. And we could easily do with 5 seasons of this show. The story was wrapped up. We found out who A was. The end. But that didn't happen. I'm getting annoyed. Okay, let's talk briefly about characters. As I already said, I wish they were more developed. I wish they had certain traumas and insecurities that really impacted their lives and made them do stupid things. Honestly, I wish they were more flawed. Like, you can have an awful human being and people will still find them appealing if it's executed properly. If you're shown the story about a very flawed character and you are shown why they are flawed and why they do the things they do and how certain events change them, it is actually a very compelling storytelling. And in the case of Pretty Little Liars, the story doesn't make sense because the person who tortures them has no motive. In the books, for example, the liars made so many mistakes and they actually destroyed people's lives. It was never a malicious intent on their part, but they still did unspeakable things. And A had a lot of material to blackmail them with. And I'm not saying it would give someone a right to torture them. I actually think that the reason they are tortured should be something completely demented that only makes sense for a twisted mind. But as an audience, we would already know that they are to blame for insane things they've done. We should see them changing and evolving to a better adjusted adults. They should be held accountable for their mistakes. I think you get my point.
Life is a carousel, dancing around the mirrors, we go up and down.
So many plot holes. So I think everyone is already fully aware how many insane freaking plot holes this show has. I blame Marlene King, the showrunner of Pretty Little Liars. I feel like all her writing can be summed up in 2 words. Shock factor. And I have to say, she is pretty good with setting up mysteries. But she cannot deliver. Watching PLL, we are bombarded with cryptic clues and shocking plot twists. But if you write a mystery and you stray away from the source material, but you actually don't know who the villain is, well, things can get really messy. And they did. I don't want to get into too much details on that because there are thousands of videos on YouTube about all the plot holes that writers couldn't explain. So like, you already know. If you even clicked on this video, you already know about all the plot holes that Pretty Little Liars has. Half of the show doesn't make any sense. And the show is a mystery drama. The whole point of the show is that the answers to all questions are right there, in plain sight, but you just can't see them right now. But they are there. And this is incredibly disappointing for someone who loves a good whodunit story. Like, I really wanted an ending like the one from The Knives Out. You know, an incredibly insane series of events that makes perfect sense now that you know the whole story. But no, not this time, I guess. And I just want to add that having the main villain at the end to be Alex Drake is just disgusting. My problem with it is not about the fact that it's a twin reveal. It is because she literally appears in last 2 episodes. Oh, and she has a heinous British accent.
The gates closed, the pack shut down. They packed up, they found another town.
Okay, we have too many additional characters.
So,
I will try to make this quick. These are the characters that I think are useless to the story. If they have a storyline, it's dumb and it doesn't bring any substance. Or I just don't like them. Sydney Driscoll, Sarah Harvey, stop taking showers on set. Johnny, whatever his last name was, Melissa's flatmate in London. Lyndon James or Nate St. Germain. Do they not have enough villains in the show to bring this character and also make him a murderer that is not related to the main story? Elliot Rollins or Archer Dunhill, the most cartoonish villain I've ever seen. Alex Drake, the most disgusting character I've ever seen. Detective Holbrook suddenly turned evil for no reason. Jake. I just don't like him. Okay, who's next? Paige McCullers. I know everyone hates her. I am not sure why I don't like her. I think she's just boring and controlling. Bethany Young. Just why? Clark something. Too short of a storyline to have any impact. Lorenzo. Do not contribute to Alison's redemption arc, please. And finally, Ezra Fitz, the crustiest man alive. When it comes to Ezra, I just think he should be painted as a villain, and he should be brought to justice either by Arya or A. Moving on.
You said to be cool, but I'm already coolest. I said to get real. Don't you know who you're dealing with?
And here are some characters that I think had been underutilized or misused in the story. Cece Drake. I wish she was an A. I wish she was just shady. Jenna Marshall. There were just so much more that could have been done with this character. Caleb Rivers. I think he overstayed his welcome.
That's my opinion!
Mona Vanderwall. I think she should be actually killed by Alison. I think that would raise the stakes so much. Noel Khan. Him being evil makes no sense and he has no motive, so why don't you just date Arya instead of crusty Ezra? Jason De Laurentiis. There is so much more that could have been done with this character. Kate Randall. Please stop being one-note cartoon villain. Anne Sullivan. Can we have more therapy sessions with the girls to uncover ins and outs of the relationship with Ali? And Emily Fields. Okay, I wouldn't throw her out, hear me out. I would definitely keep her, but I feel like the only reason she is there is to be gay. Can you not, Marlene? Can Emily have any good storylines? Moving on. I don't care what anyone says. Alison was a perfect villain. You see, I don't know if I can explain how iconic Alison was when she was presumed dead. But if you watch this show, which I assume you did, you already know. When we are introduced to her in the first season through flashbacks, we start to understand the hold she has on everyone. Everyone was afraid of her, even adults, and she was only 14 or 15 at the time. Alison was incredibly mysterious. She did awful, unspeakable things, and she manipulated everyone around her, to the point where she had a very long list of enemies. Nobody really understood why she did the things she did. Her friendship with the girls was sometimes very wholesome, but at the same time it was incredibly toxic and complicated. And I hate that she had been given a redemption arc, because as much as liars loved her as a friend, it is undeniable that she was destroying their lives. She was blackmailing Spencer for kissing Ian, gave Hannah an actual eating disorder, played with Emily's feelings, and monetized Arya's father's affair. These are not actions of someone who is just acting out. These are calculated moves that she thought of beforehand and executed without batting an eyelash. And this is the worst aspect of the show, I think. I believe this show could have been so much more intense if they picked the right villain and actually did it before they start filming. I think this could have made Pretty Little Liars the most iconic show in the genre.
Got a secret, can you keep it?
I also want to make a video about rewriting Pretty Little Liars because I would do it so differently and I will try to do it without any twins. So if you like to see that, subscribe. Also subscribe because I want to feed my cat. And follow me and my cat on Instagram. Okay, bye.